Trump tariffs. Things are going absolutely ballistic. This market has a lot of volatility. At the same time, this market has a lot of opportunity. In the next 90 days, as tariffs are paused, besides China not being paused, there's even more opportunity for good investors to outperform bad investors. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and Ray Dalio even refers to it that way. I want you to watch this quick clip of Ray Dalio, and I'm going to break down what I believe to be the opportunity and how to better navigate this market under the Trump tariff situation.
Bridgewater Associates founder Ray Dalio posting on LinkedIn and weighing in on tariffs. He says it's more important to focus on the idea that, quote, we're seeing a classic breakdown of the major monetary, political, and geopolitical orders. This sort of breakdown occurs only about once in a lifetime, but they have happened many times in history when similar unsustainable conditions were in place. Joining us right now.
There are systems, and the systems break down for certain reasons, and it creates cycles. For example, there's a monetary system, and then there's a debt cycle. And so as a result, we now have, one man's debts, another man's assets. And when you build these up and you get to a point where you can't sustain that, you have a debt issue. We have a debt issue. We can get into that. But there's a monetary cycle. There's a internal political order cycle that takes us from one political order to another political order, in which there's then classically great turbulence between the left and the right. And because of disorder, particularly in democracies, there's a lot of fighting because there needs to be cooperation, compromise, and so on. And we're in the process of changing that order.
There's a lot of fighting and chaos between the superpowers, America, China. China with a lot more population. The GDP per capita, if it goes up, is going to be much more valuable than the United States. And the United States is feeling this pressure right now, especially because the debt is completely out of control. However, Ray Dalio offers some insight, and he says that this is part of the plan, part of a process. And the next thing that he said really gave me more perspective, and it's very important, valuable for you to listen to as well.
Based on what you're seeing right now, do you think that these tariffs are being carried out in a practical way or a chaotic way?
I think we'll see. So far, very disruptive, right? And so we don't know what the numbers are. But that could be part of a process, right? It depends where we are at the end of the 90 days. Because what was put there is like throwing rocks into the production system. And those impacts would be enormous in terms of the efficiency of the whole world. Great cost.
I want to ask you about something that's on a lot of people's minds, your predictions for the future. And I want to start with the R word. I know you think this is just a piece of it. Of course, I'm talking about a recession. Do you think it is likely that the United States will dip into a recession because of President Trump's tariffs?
I think that right now we are at a decision-making point and very close to a recession. And I'm worried about something worse than a recession if this isn't handled well. A recession is 2 negative quarters of GDP, and whether it goes slightly there, we always have those things. We have something that's much more profound. We have a breaking down of the monetary order. We are going to change the monetary order because we cannot spend the amounts of money, so we have that problem. And when we talk about the dollar and we talk about tariffs, we have that. We are having profound changes in our domestic order, how ruling is existing, and we're having profound changes in the world order. Such times are very much like the 1930s. I've studied history, and this repeats over and over again. So if you take tariffs, if you take debt, if you take the rising power challenging the existing power, if you take those factors and look at the factors, those changes in the orders, the systems, are very, very disruptive. How that's handled could produce something that is much worse than a recession, or it could be handled well.
So essentially, Ray Dalio says that probably things will be good. Probably US knows what they're doing. There is a chance of recession, which, by the way, a lot of people think that recession is super bad. A recession is just 2 consecutive quarters of lowering GDP. Ray Dalio said something even worse can happen. And let's put a 10% probability on that. 50%, everything is good. 40%, maybe we get a recession. By the way, recession isn't that bad. We're kind of already in a market crash. We've had a pullback of 15% over 3 days, 20%, and going down 5% more would basically be kind of in that recession territory. Not by definition, but how people would feel about it. So we're essentially already had such a big pullback in the market that the only other thing that can happen is that 10%, or I'm basically pulling that out of nowhere, but let's call it 5 to 15% chance that something worse can happen. And nobody really knows what that percentage chance is. But I've written down about 5 things that I think you should really consider to make better decisions over these next 90 days. So first of all, Trump's tariffs may seem extreme, but they're just part of a strategic pivot to maintain US dominance in a shift of global order. Globalization has made the US vulnerable, and especially to China. We've seen that actually. It was the craziest situation that during COVID, we couldn't even get any masks because China said, we need it for ourselves. And that's where you really see the reliance of US on China. You see, the US allowed outsourcing for profits, especially when China was economically weaker. But now that China is stronger and outsourcing dependent, it's a security liability. One thing that I want to remind you guys, and it's been about 5 years now since COVID, but when the whole situation of COVID started, Wuhan only had international flights, not domestic flights. So the local Chinese citizens, they couldn't fly from Wuhan to, Shanghai or Beijing because China knew that there was a lot of cases and that would spread faster. Instead, to fight global power and global economics, China allowed international flights from Wuhan because basically, if we're going to struggle, we want others to struggle as well. So you can see how really there's a lot of economic warfare going on right now. And with American debt being so high and just trade imbalances, there has to be a shift. This is something that is not avoidable. And Trump is just the one taking action right now to solve this issue for America. And what we see going on right now is Trump having erratic behavior. But there's actually something a little bit genius about it. You see, Trump or whatever our government power isn't stupid. They're not doing erratic behavior on purpose. It's called playing a game. When you play a game of putting on tariffs, taking them off, you're just kind of checking out the other side. And because this only happens once in a lifetime, we don't have a playbook. We don't have the guide to how to negotiate with other countries because they're very powerful as well. So what instead is happening is there's a little bit of a game going on. The tariffs are going to be this. Oh, and there's a pause. Oh, but not on Apple, not on, smartphones, not on electronics. And this is where the game gets really interesting. And over the next 90 days, this game's probably going to continue. And that's actually a good thing. I don't have a political side, Democrat, Republican, I don't care. I'm on the side of making money. But if you look at Trump, his policies, Republicans, getting America to a stronger place in the future is going to require some short-term pain. And right now, the pain that people are experiencing in the market and blaming Trump, you're going to thank him 2, 3, 4, 10 years down the future and the next generation. And figuring out trade imbalances, figuring out the global power is a very crucial, important thing. And there's nothing that we can do about it except as investors to actually take advantage of the volatility in the market. There's a lot of things that us common people don't really understand on the surface. We see certain headlines, certain news, but as much as we try to digest it, we won't even able to digest everything because there's insider information, there's private information that is happening behind the scenes that we just don't get access to. And what I want to say is we don't even need that information. The history says it all. Markets recover, GDP increases for America due to technological innovation, and the stock market is going to be higher in 2026. So whatever happens the next 90 days while tariffs are paused or 2025 is only an opportunity to dollar cost average, to sell put options and buy stocks that are actually cheaper than they're trading at in the market. Because when you're selling volatility, when you're selling put options, especially when volatility is high, you're essentially getting paid hand over fist. You're getting paid bicep over tricep for buying stocks literally cheaper than they're trading at in the market. So there is nothing better than selling puts, getting into more companies right now, getting some cash as much as possible. It's difficult, I get it right now, but with every paycheck, with every business transaction, with the money that you get, it's important to put back into the high quality companies. Make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow morning I'm going to make a video on 3 stocks I believe to be oversold and have a really good entry point. So if you want to see that video right away, so make sure you're subscribed not to miss that video, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow morning.